Welcome to Mystery Stories. Get ready for our first deep dive. We're going to be exploring some biblical mysteries that might just blow your mind.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking ancient texts, lost tribes, and the possibility that two of the Bible's biggest enigmas, the Tower of Babel and the Ark of the Covenant, could be intertwined.
Yeah, what's so captivating about these stories, is that they've been passed down for millennia and continue to spark debate and research even today.
Exactly. And today we're going to be exploring the fascinating research of David Rohl and Tudor Parfit, two scholars who've dedicated themselves to kind of unraveling these mysteries. So let's start with the Tower of Babel. You probably remember the story from the book of Genesis.
Right.
Humanity, united by one language, decides to build a tower reaching to the heavens, but God, seeing their hubris, disrupts their plans by confusing their languages and scattering them across the earth.
Right.
But what if this story is more than just a myth? What if it has roots in actual historical events?
Well, that's precisely the question that David Rohl asks. He approaches the Bible not just as a religious text, but as a potential source of historical insight.
Okay.
And in his search for the real Tower of Babel, he makes a surprising claim. It wasn't in Babylon, as many believe,
Right.
but in the ancient city of Eridu.
Wait, Eridu? I've never even heard of that city.
Really?
Why would you think the Tower of Babel was there?
Well, Eridu was one of the oldest cities in Mesopotamia, possibly the oldest, and the Sumerians believed it was the first city on Earth, the place where kingship descended from heaven. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
It's strikingly similar to the biblical description of Babel as the origin of civilization.
Okay, I see the connection. But is there any actual proof that the Tower of Babel was in Eridu? Did they find like a tower there?
Here's where it gets really interesting. Archaeologists excavating Eridu uncovered the remains of a massive ziggurat.
Okay.
You know those stepped temple towers common in ancient Mesopotamia?
Right.
And guess what? It was unfinished and abandoned mid-construction, just like the Tower of Babel in the biblical account.
Whoa, that's an incredible coincidence.
Yeah.
It's like the story came to life in those ruins.
Exactly. But Rohl takes it a step further. He suggests that the biblical scattering of people after the Tower of Babel might correspond to a real historical migration from Mesopotamia to Egypt.
So you're saying that the people who were supposedly scattered from Babel actually migrated to Egypt?
Yeah.
That's a pretty bold claim. Is there any evidence to support that?
Well, Rohl points to the sudden appearance of new technologies and artistic styles in early Egyptian civilization, which could suggest influence from another culture. He even connects it to rock art in Egypt's eastern desert, depicting ships far from any major water source.
Wow.
He sees these as evidence of foreign ships potentially carrying migrants from Mesopotamia arriving in Egypt.
It's amazing to think that a story as old as the Tower of Babel could shed light on the origins of ancient Egypt. But let's move on to our second mystery, the Ark of the Covenant. It's one of the most sacred objects in Judeo-Christian tradition, said to have housed the Ten Commandments that disappeared after the destruction of Solomon's temple in Jerusalem, and its whereabouts remain a mystery to this day.
Yeah, enter Tudor Parfit, a scholar who has spent decades searching for a lost tribe of Israel, a journey that led him to a surprising discovery in southern Africa, the Lemba people.
A lost tribe of Israel in Africa. That's thousands of miles away from their traditional homeland. How did he even end up there?
Well, Parfit's fascination with lost tribes began in the 1960s Jerusalem, where he encountered Jewish communities from all over the world.
Okay.
It sparked a curiosity about the dispersed tribes mentioned in the Bible, and years later he came across accounts of the Lemba people in southern Africa who claimed to have Jewish ancestry.
Wait, a tribe in Africa claiming Jewish heritage? That's fascinating, but how could they possibly be connected to ancient Israel?
Their claims seemed far-fetched at first, but Parfit was intrigued by their unique customs.
Okay.
The Lemba practiced circumcision, followed kosher dietary laws, and even revered a holy city called Senna.
Which sounds strikingly similar to the Hebrew word for Zion.
Okay, those are some pretty interesting coincidences, but customs alone don't necessarily prove a genetic connection, right?
Of course not. So Parfit embarked on a journey to the Lemba homeland, determined to investigate their claims. What he discovered there was compelling.
Okay.
He witnessed rituals that mirrored Jewish practices and learned about their secret oral history passed down through generations.
What did their oral history say? Did it offer any clues about their possible connection to ancient Israel?
According to Lemba tradition, a small group of priestly Jews fled Jerusalem centuries ago. They traveled through Yemen, crossed the sea, and eventually settled in Africa. And remember their holy city, Senna.
Right.
Well, Parfit discovered a city called Senna in Yemen, perfectly positioned for a sea voyage to Africa.
So both the Lemba story and Roll's research on the Tower of Babel mention Yemen as a key location.
That's right.
Could there be a connection? That's a question we'll explore further in our next deep dive. But for now, let's focus on the Lemba and their potential link to ancient Israel. Remember, they claimed descent from priests.
Right. They did. And we all know how important priests were in ancient Israel, especially those descended from Aaron, Moses' brother.
Exactly. And here's where science comes in. DNA analysis allows us to trace ancestry through generations.
Right.
And the results of DNA tests on the Lemba were astounding. They revealed that a significant percentage of Lemba men share genetic markers with the Kohanim, the priestly lineage descended from Aaron.
Hold on, are you saying that the Lemba might actually be descendants of ancient Jewish priests? But what about the Ark of the Covenant? Where does that fit into all of this?
That's where the story takes an even more intriguing turn. The Lemba possessed a mysterious artifact called the Ngoma Lungundu, and it shared some striking similarities with descriptions of the Ark of the Covenant in the Bible.
What kind of similarities are we talking about? This is getting really exciting.
The Ngoma Lungundu was described as a wooden, drum-like structure carried on poles covered in leather and containing sacred objects. It was even used in battle, much like the Ark of the Covenant was believed to have been used.
Okay, so could this Ngoma Lungundu actually be a portable version of the Ark? Or maybe a replica created by the Lemba priests who fled Jerusalem?
Well, Parfit's search for the Ngoma Lungundu eventually led him to a museum storeroom in Harar, where he finally found it. However, carbon dating revealed that it dates back around 700 years, not to the time of the original Ark. But that doesn't necessarily rule out a connection.
So you're saying that even though it's not the original Ark, it could still be a sacred object passed down through generations, representing the Lemba's connection to their ancestral past?
Exactly, and it raises the question, if the Lemba are indeed descendants of Jewish priests, could they have carried a replica of the Ark with them on their journey from Jerusalem to Africa? It's a tantalizing possibility.
This is all so fascinating. We've uncovered a potential new location for the Tower of Babel, explored the possibility of a lost tribe of Israel in Africa, and even encountered a mysterious artifact that could be connected to the Ark of the Covenant.
And we've only just scratched the surface. Join us for part 2, where we'll delve deeper into these mysteries and explore the potential connections between them.
Don't miss it. Welcome back to Mystery Stories. Last time we left off with the possibility that the Tower of Babel might have been located in Eridu, not Babylon, and that the Lemba people of southern Africa might be descended from ancient Jewish priests. It's a lot to take in, I know.
Right.
But stick with me, because it gets even more intriguing as we explore the potential connections between these two seemingly separate stories.
Yeah, what's fascinating is how both David Roll's research on the Tower of Babel and Tudor Parfit's work on the Lemba tribe converge on a single location, Yemen.
You're right. I remember Roll suggesting that Mesopotamian migrants might have traveled through Yemen on their way to Egypt, and then the Lemba oral history claims they journeyed through Yemen before crossing the sea to Africa. It's almost too much of a coincidence to ignore.
Right, and remember the Lemba's holy city, Senna. Well, Roll actually discovered a city called Senna in Yemen, perfectly situated for a sea voyage to Africa. Could it be the same Senna, the place where these two narratives intersect?
It's definitely a possibility worth considering.
Yeah.
But before we jump to conclusions, let's go back to Roll's theory about the Tower of Babel and its connection to Egypt. He talked about a sudden influx of new technologies and artistic styles in early Egyptian civilization, potentially influenced by migrants from Mesopotamia. Is there any other evidence to support this idea? I mean, besides those rock drawings of ships in the desert?
One of the most compelling pieces of evidence Roll presents is the sudden appearance of a new type of brick architecture in Egypt prior to this period. Egyptians primarily used mud bricks, but then seemingly out of nowhere, they started using fired bricks, a technology common in Mesopotamia.
So are you suggesting that Mesopotamian migrants brought the knowledge of brickmaking to Egypt?
That's precisely what Roll proposes. He argues that this technological transfer, along with other cultural influences, could be a direct result of the migration that followed the Tower of Babel incident.
But wouldn't such a significant migration leave a more prominent mark on the historical record? Wouldn't we have more accounts of these Mesopotamian travelers?
Well, you'd think so, right? But remember, we're talking about events that happened thousands of years ago.
Right.
Our historical records from that period are fragmented and incomplete. It's quite possible that accounts of these migrations existed but were lost to time or haven't been discovered yet.
That's true. We only have a limited window into the past. And besides, wouldn't a sudden influx of foreigners, especially those with advanced technologies, potentially cause friction with the native population?
Absolutely. It's highly likely that there were conflicts and power struggles as these different cultures interacted. And who knows, those conflicts might have contributed to the eventual decline or transformation of certain civilizations.
It's mind-boggling to think that something like the Tower of Babel incident, if it really happened, could have set off a chain of events that shaped the course of ancient history.
Yeah, and if you think about it, the themes of migration, cultural exchange, and conflict are still relevant today. We live in a world where people are constantly on the move, ideas are rapidly spreading, and cultures are clashing.
It's almost like history is repeating itself, but on a global scale.
In a way, yes. But let's not forget about the Lemba. Their story offers a unique perspective on migration and cultural preservation. Imagine a small group of people fleeing their homeland, carrying their traditions and beliefs across continents and preserving them for centuries.
It's a testament to the resilience of culture and the power of oral history, and the fact that they might be descendants of Jewish priests adds another layer of intrigue to their story.
Right, and then there's that mysterious Hangoma Lungundu. Even if it's not the original Ark of the Covenant, it still represents a powerful connection to their past, a tangible symbol of their heritage.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if the Ungomalingundu, or even the original Ark, is still out there somewhere waiting to be rediscovered?
It's certainly a possibility, and who knows what other secrets and connections are waiting to be uncovered as we continue to delve into these ancient mysteries. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We still have much more to explore, including the potential link between the Tower of Babel and the Ark of the Covenant.
I'm on the edge of my seat. Don't leave us hanging. Let's dive into part 3. Welcome back to Mystery Stories. We've been on quite a journey, haven't we? From the potential location of the Tower of Babel in Eridu to the possibility of a lost tribe of Israel in southern Africa, we've explored some mind-blowing theories and uncovered some fascinating connections. But here's the big question.
Yeah.
Is there a link between the Tower of Babel and the Ark of the Covenant?
It might seem like a stretch at first, but if you think about it, both stories revolve around similar themes,
Okay.
the scattering of people, the preservation of cultural identity, and the search for a connection to the divine.
You're right. Both narratives deal with the movement of people and ideas across vast distances and the ways in which those journeys shape beliefs and traditions.
Well, exactly. And remember, both stories converge on Yemen as a key location. Could it be that the migrations sparked by the Tower of Babel incident, if it really happened, somehow intertwined with the journey of the Lemba priests fleeing Jerusalem with a replica of the Ark?
That's a fascinating idea. It would mean that these two seemingly separate events are actually part of a larger interconnected narrative spanning continents and millennia.
And it would highlight the profound impact that migration and cultural exchange have had on shaping human history. Think about the ripple effects. If Mesopotamian migrants influenced the development of ancient Egypt, and if the Lemba priests carried their traditions and possibly a replica of the Ark to Africa, then these events could have had a cascading effect on the development of civilizations across the globe.
It's like a giant puzzle, with each piece revealing a new part of the picture. But how do we even begin to connect these pieces? It seems like a daunting task.
It is, but that's what makes historical research so exciting. It's a process of piecing together fragmented information, analyzing different sources, and considering multiple perspectives, and sometimes the most unexpected discoveries come from challenging traditional interpretations and being open to new possibilities.
Like David Roll's theory about the Tower of Babel being in Eridu, not Babylon. It challenges the conventional wisdom, but he backs it up with compelling evidence.
Yeah, and Tudor Parfit's work on the Lemba tribe reminds us that there's still so much we don't know about the past. Who would have thought that a tribe in southern Africa would hold the key to understanding a biblical mystery?
It's a reminder that we should never underestimate the power of oral history and the importance of preserving cultural traditions. But let's go back to that potential connection between the Tower of Babel and the Ark of the Covenant. Is there anything else in the historical record besides the Yemen connection that might support this link?
Well, it's difficult to say for sure given the limited evidence we have, but there's some intriguing parallels worth considering. For example, some scholars believe that the Tower of Babel story might symbolize the human desire to reach the divine, to bridge the gap between heaven and earth. And the Ark of the Covenant, in Jewish tradition, represented the presence of God among his people.
So you're saying that both stories, in a way, deal with the human longing for a connection to the divine, a desire to transcend our earthly limitations.
Exactly. And perhaps that shared theme, that longing for something greater than ourselves, is what ultimately connects these two seemingly disparate narratives. It's a reminder that even though we might be separated by time, distance, and culture, we're all part of the same human story, a story that's been unfolding for millennia.
Wow, that's a powerful thought. So what does this all mean? What are the key takeaways from these deep dives into the Tower of Babel and the Ark of the Covenant?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that history is not a static, closed book. It's an ongoing conversation, a process of discovery and reinterpretation. And the more we learn, the more we realize how much we don't know. But that's what makes it so fascinating, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's like we're peeling back layers of time, uncovering new clues, and constantly revising our understanding of the past. And who knows, maybe one day we'll find that missing piece that finally connects the Tower of Babel and the Ark of the Covenant in a way that we never could have imagined.
Until then, we keep searching, keep questioning, and keep exploring the mysteries of the past.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired to do some more digging. And you know what? I bet there are other biblical mysteries out there just waiting to be unlocked.
I have no doubt about that. And who knows, maybe we'll uncover some of them together in our next deep dive.
That's right. Thanks for joining us on Mystery Stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more intriguing deep dives into the world's greatest mysteries.